They get a lot today, man. I think they could go on. Maybe not fast enough to do, but it's kind of wicked. We just look around and remember making sure it's all yeah, that's fine.
Okay, well, I'm going to get started here. First of all, I'm Jason Palmer. I'm with the Cabo Tribes Department of Transportation. I'm here on behalf of the Cabo Tribes Restoration Task Force. And what I wanted to do is just introduce the task force, give an update about what we're doing, and then we're trying to get some feedback as we're developing the restoration plan. So I'm hoping that towards the end here we can get a little interactive and get some input from the community. We've already gone to Nispelem and Keller. We're trying to get to Inchlim and we're going to do it back now. So we're trying to get some input from the community. Anyway, let me get my notes real quick. Just to give a little bit of background, of course everyone's aware that in February of last year, the Cabo Tribes signed an agreement to settle a long-standing dispute with the federal government over mismanagement of trust assets and accounting of trust funds. So the tribe settled, and then in May, the tribe had been working with a group of independent subject matter experts from outside of the organization. One of those people was, his name was Dr. K. Norman Johnson. He's a distinguished professor with the Oregon State University College of Forestry. So he, along with other colleagues, Deborah Johnson with Applegate Forestry, LLC, they came out, worked with the tribe. They helped prepare a conceptual plan that the tribe could use to restore our natural resources back to pre-damage conditions. And not really trying to get too in-depth with a lot of the details about the actual settlement or anything else. I just wanted to give an update about the Restoration Task Force. So in May, the plan that was developed, I do have some handouts in the back. I put them by the officer so he could protect them so nobody would steal them. There are some. One of the handouts is the Johnson plan, which is what I just talked about here. So if you want to grab one, I don't have enough copies, I'll tell you that right now, but if you'd like a copy, I can either print it out and bring it over here to Omak or whatever, or I can email it to you, so if you just let me know and I'll try to get you a copy. And then there's also a copy of the restoration PowerPoint that I'm presenting with the resolutions. So the Johnson plan actually was a plan that accounted for $193 million full settlement amount. And that is what they had determined it would cost to actually restore our natural resources to pre-damage conditions. But of course, everyone's aware that there were some disbursements to the membership, and what we have left now is roughly a small portion of that. In September of 2012, a recommendation through the Natural Resources Committee was made to develop a restoration task force. So that was a resolution that authorized the task force. Basically, it just said, our primary task was to develop a comprehensive restoration work plan that can be readily implemented, and then set up the necessary management to begin implementation of the restoration program. Shortly after that, the Omak Tribes passed resolution 2012-682, which was the Quanquan plan. And the restoration plan is actually a component of the Quanquan plan. 30% of the available funds that were left over are being dedicated to the restoration plan, the restoration program. In November, we actually kind of kicked off all of our meetings, and we started out just getting together and trying to set up the framework for the meetings. How are we going to move forward? How are we going to keep things, on target and aligned, meeting certain goals that we have within the tribe, meeting the restoration goals? And so we spent some time working with just the program managers. Actually, not the program managers, the members of the task force, so we could kind of develop the framework of how we're going to move forward and meet our targets that we had. So I wanted to kind of just share with you the composition, what the task force is made up. The resolution that came forward, 2012-639, said that the Restoration Task Force shall consist of resource specialists from Environmental Trust, Forestry, Range, Fish and Wildlife, History, Resource Inventory Analysis, Transportation, Accounting, Planning, Realty, Real Property, as selected by the Executive Director, and 4 at-large community positions. Right now, just about every one of those resources or the programs that are mentioned here have somebody that's dedicated to the Restoration Task Force. What we're doing now is we're trying to reach out to the communities to find an at-large member, somebody to participate. We've had members, about 3 people participating, a couple primarily from the Inchlim District and 1 from the Spelum. If you want to be involved, please come there. We have our meetings every Friday, 2 p.m., BIA large conference room. They are open, so we're trying to get others to come out here and participate in this. It's, we're not just trying to create a plan, from our perspective. We're actually reaching out to the communities and trying to get community input to incorporate into the plan. Now, Lynn told me I had to keep this to 10 minutes, so it's a short PowerPoint, but at the end I was hoping we could get some comments from everybody here. So, one of the first things we did as a task force is we identified the goals that we were trying to achieve. A lot of the goals that came forward were actually presented in the Johnson Plan. When these independent subject matter experts came to the reservation, they came here with fresh eyes and looked at the conditions that we had here on the reservation. They could see a lot of the problems that we were facing and a lot of the issues that were out there. A lot of things that led to the degradation of our watersheds and our ecosystem. So one of the first goals was to restore the forest watersheds through road relocation, decommissioning, design, maintenance, and road system management. The Johnson Plan had stated that they had, through their recommendation, they wanted to see most of the money be spent on the watershed restoration. And a lot of that had to do with roads. Not necessarily system roads that are managed by the BIA, but forest roads. Roads that are not in our system, they're not managed in any way. And a lot of you guys that go out in the woods, you see this. You see the roads that are washed out roads, washboards. And a lot of that's, the water's just going right into the streams, depositing sediment, and it's causing a lot of big issues. And a lot of those issues are what led to this big settlement. The next goal is they wanted to address forest health problems. So a lot of the forest health problems that they wanted to address was they wanted to reduce densities of young timber stands, demonstrate accelerated restoration of older stands, and align the sawmill activities with our restoration efforts. So that was one of the goals. Then the next goal was that they wanted to restore deer habitat, cultural plant habitat, forage productivity, and that are out there on our rangelands. We wanted to increase cultural plant abundance and availability. Now,
Cows.
It's not necessarily dealing with the cattle issue specifically. We're looking more at like the rangeland issues itself. Now, we do have range participating.
Isn't that it?
They're a part of the task force, and we have talked about, we kind of go in circles, and it always comes back to cows and how we can manage the cows. And so we're not really dealing with the cattle issue specifically as much as we are dealing with the issues with the land and, you know, the rangeland itself. And really specifically, it goes down to, you know, the cultural plants is one of the big issues, and then also finding forage for wintering deer. And,
Yeah. Cows step all over the vegetation, they shit in our creeks. And so, I mean, that's not an issue, I don't know what is.
That's part of what I wanted to say about too, because here you get a whole program, and any program you have, you're going to be changing the environment, so there should be at least some kind of minimum environmental impact to this contract, or even contracts. You're probably going to break some of this down into smaller contracts. And so, my saying is there are a lot of these roads that they're out there, I don't think necessarily need to be opened up again. When I was a kid, back, you know, years ago, a lot of people, they get on horses and ride those places that are wide open now to drive through the damn mountains. And I don't like it. Every year I go up and spend one day on Moses Mountain when the moon comes up around July, when it's really big, you let your rich hard touch it. And I'll watch people coming off the northern there and going through our reservation hunting at nighttime, early in the morning. And I camp up at the top of Moses Mountain right in the tower. And I don't like to see the damn roads being open. I think we ought to have a discussion with all the membership and ask the membership and bring up these problems, positive and negative, both sides of the story, so we can get good input as to what we want. And so, like you say, there's no environmental impact, these damn contracts. I think your experts kind of failed us there. Okay.
That's it. You know, the task force, you know, we're trying to stay focused. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that we create a plan that meets restoration goals, like real restoration. We want to restore our natural resources to what they call the pre-damage conditions. And it's not possible, is that what you said?
Yeah, it's not possible. We're still too far open, there's too much damage. I mean, there are things that we can do to minimize it, but to go back to prehistory or pre-contact type of information, that's not, I wish it could, but let's be real. Let's be real, let's look at and focus on where we're at.
Right.
This damage we're talking about to our forest has been going on since the 70s.
Oh, earlier in
Now
the
you guys,
Go back to the 40s.
everybody, I'm 64. I remember going to Inchland. So I know those roads from here to Inchland really well. And this has been going on since the 70s. Slash laid all over the place. Our trees are gone. Our huckleberries, cows all over the place. So your goals are good for you. But I know that this has been going on since the 70s. Our councilman never did anything about it. A lot of them probably profited from it. So what?
Just one quick thought up. You know, that is a lofty goal to get back to pre-damage conditions.
That can happen in our life.
Yeah, but we'd like to lay the groundwork. And like I said, you know, we're really building this framework up as a restoration task force. We can't accomplish everything. We can't fix it all right now. But we're hoping with what little money that we have, that we can really do, you know, some good things. We can lay the groundwork for the things so we can change policies. And then when I go back to the cattle issue, This is something we've gone back to in the task force quite a bit. We get down to, that there's, policies that are set forth already, and even with the forest, the way we manage our timber. Right now, we manage our timber in a production base, that's the policies, we do it for production. Well, the restoration, what we're trying to do here is, it's actually gonna take a change in management, a management policy, that we're gonna have to change the policy from production to resiliency. And so those are the kinds of things that, when we laid the groundwork, we're trying to set the, make recommendations for policy changes. And so we're not really gonna fix it all with one big shot, but we're working on it.
I don't expect you to fix it all, but I just want you to acknowledge this problem. You guys, everybody, acknowledge it's been going on forever. And it's time we did come up and say, yeah, come on, you guys, let us take care of it.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and so that's what we're putting on this restoration team. It's time to change our practices. From what you've seen since the '60s, we got to start changing it. And the last time when I go back to DC, I met with the BI, the head forester for BIA, and I said, you know what? You just lost a lawsuit for damages. And I'm telling you right now, the practices haven't changed. You need to change those practices. So there's, we're asking a lot of the BIA, we're asking a lot of them, but you know what, that's, as our trustee, that's what they need to do, and that's what we want. And, he's right. Some of us, we won't see this change in our lifetime, but, what we give to the next generation is going to be something a lot better than what we had.
Could I make a statement?
I'm just,
Hang on a minute.
BIA might have had some part of it, but our councilmen, our protectors, our people that were supposed to be protecting us in that chambers, they are responsible just as well as the BIA. Because they let this happen. They allowed all this clear cutting, all this pesticides all over the place. They allowed them to go in and do this. So I just want to be, I am real. And I know what I'm talking about. I sat with a bunch of little people in a bar, at a powwow, at a stick game. And so they were just like, okay, I don't know. Well, it didn't happen on my land, so I don't care. You know what? That's gotta stop. That kind of thinking has gotta stop.
Well, that's exactly right, and that's what this group is. We're stopping that thinking, at least at the council level. That's not okay anymore. That's not okay.
Yeah, I'd like to make a point to get back in the planning portion of this, and that's a good repair to nature is nature itself. And if we really take a good observation of things that have been going on over the years, since I was a kid, I could tell you things that even going beyond, because I know a lot of you are younger than me. We were taking trees out of this where the limbs were bigger than the trees that we're taking out nowadays, And so when we talk about the environments, it changed so much. In the creeks, I remember as a little kid, I could fish in little creeks here right up to July. There were creeks only about a foot wide and 2 foot deep, and they had all kinds of trout. They're all dry anymore. So my point is, getting back that nature can repair itself, I think we ought to maybe take a different look at it. Set money aside that you have already, and put it in a bank account, and let it draw some interest, and do our planning based on as needed by emergency. And take a damn good look at the roads we want to have open, the ones we don't want to have open. Because you're not going to be able to restore your deer and your grouse and your huckleberries and all the native foods unless we really are sincere about looking at it properly. And I don't think we're going to get there if we rush in and do a big make work program. And the white man is great about doing that. He'll give you all kinds of money to make work to get you distracted while he's doing something else. So I think we ought to take a good look at it, and then go to each district and have each district and let you put your money in your bank and make some interest on it so that you can take it from that point and plan real. Good to have a good long range look ahead and not just spend your money all at one time.
There's a hand over here.
these here points are really important to this plan, and I can agree with most of it, but I have one little itty bitty concern, and that is, if you're gone tomorrow, and this council's gone tomorrow, how is this plan going to be sustainable? I don't see one little piece in it that's going to guarantee us the title of ownership. The plan is going to go on regardless of who's in it. Because every time the council changes, then,
Plans change.
yes, and everything in the tribe changes. And we don't, I don't see that little piece in here that concerns me. We got a plan here, didn't do a lot of good, but if we don't have that sustainability built in there, tomorrow's gone.
So
That's a really good point,
would that kind of
and
capture that sustainability in the plan, like making sure it's a long-term sustainable plan?
I think you also need to add in there change in management style. But, so I'm gonna address that in my presentation, so that's a really good point, you're making my point. Yeah, yeah.
One thing is, you know, with the council being, you know, that is a serious concern with the rotation of council. But I think, you know, a lot of this work is coming from our restoration team and the people that are in place to actually do the work. So it's really important to have these guys in place for a long time. I mean, this council, we turn around all the time. But as long as our restoration team is pretty solid, they understand the big picture, they can relay that information to the next group. I think, you know, that gives you a little bit more, but you're right though. I mean, that turnaround, you know, turns around council, turns around administration, turns around employees, and we're stuck back in the middle again. And it's that forward momentum. So yeah, we do need to, you know, like we talked about, making stability everywhere and empowering our community to turn this whole boat around and getting it all moved together, having us all think the same, feel the same way. And ultimately, what I, you know, really like to push is that the people push this plan and make sure that it happens. And that's going to be, you know, that takes all of us out of the equation, and the people say, hey, this is what you guys promised us. You guys keep going at it. So hopefully that'll happen. Finish that.
Yeah, and this is like the first step. You know, we're in the preliminary stages of developing the plan. We're reaching out to the communities, soliciting input, soliciting participation. You know, so ultimately it will become a membership plan. And you know, I actually pulled Councilman Marchand aside maybe earlier this week, and kind of raised my concerns, and it had to go down to sustainability in the plan. You know, because there's such a big push right now to really get this plan out the door, obligate some money, get some projects done. And there's a few of us there on the task force that are kind of saying, you know, well, let's pump the brakes a little bit, take a step back, and we really need to look at this in the long term. You know, it's really easy for us right now to put a plan together, obligate funds, but that's not what we're here to do. We're really pushing towards these restoration goals. So if I can actually get through this slide, get through the other couple slides, because we'll actually kind of show some of the alternatives that we're looking at right now. They're conceptual, so if you don't mind, hold the questions for now while I get through the goals. So like I said, the first goal was restoring our forest watersheds. A lot of that had to do with forest road management practices. Addressing our forest health problems, restoring deer habitat, cultural plant habitat, forage productivity on our rangelands, increase cultural plant abundance and availability. Support the IRMP effort. The IRMP, that's one of the big guidance documents that we as resource managers, we use this document. That looks out in the long term for us. It kind of lays the groundwork for us. And so we need to update this document. And you know, for us, it's important that this document be addressed in this plan because it actually helps guide us in our decision making in the next 20 years. The IRMP is the Integrated Resource Management Plan, and that's actually due to be revised here in 2014, so next year. So we're actually working on that right now. The biggest thing about getting that done is we did not have the staff, the organizational capacity to do it ourselves. You know, it's so important for restoration and for everything else that we do as resource managers that, you know, we felt that we need to address it here. The next one is, of course, as a part of this, we wanted to provide employment and training for tribal members. So independent employment for contractors, for contracting opportunities, but also employment opportunities within the tribal organization. You know, we're kind of creating a big program here. It's going to take competent, qualified people to run the programs, and then as a part of this, we want to set up the education portion of that. We want to send people to school, provide scholarships, to train tribal members to come back and run these programs. So this really isn't, let's get this done in this 10 years and be done with it. It's something we're looking at, you know, this is a 10-year plan, but we're actually looking beyond the 10 years. The next one is, of course, the building the capacity to address the current management gaps for cultural resources, watersheds, roads, fish and wildlife, forest and rangeland resources. So, you know, the education and the training kind of helps us fill those management gaps. So those were the goals, the overarching goals that we're working towards in the plan. I wanted to kind of get in here. You know, like I said, it's hard to see this. If you want a copy, you really want to see this is the preliminary working draft, and I tried to get it as best I could on here. But really what this shows is it kind of breaks everything down. On this side, it breaks it down by category. So we have watersheds, forests, rangelands, supplemental activities. And early on, like I said, you know, the Johnson plan had made the recommendation at $193 million. That's what it's going to take to restore, you know, and their definition of restoration to pre-damage conditions. Now we have $28.95 million. So we had to start looking at places where we, you know, how were we going to cut? Where were we going to start? You know, where were we going to start in the woods? Or we were just going to pick a watershed at a time? So we had to come up with strategies of how we were going to, you know, cut the money and figure it out. And it really got down to it. You know, people were fighting for money. Range was really, you know, we were all kind of bickering around at this table here. And what it really shows in here is that, you know, we had $28.95 million to work with, and the lowest we could actually get it through all this bickering was $42 million. You know, so we were having a hard time getting it down. So that was the preliminary workings. We were able to work through that. We came up to some alternates. Again, it's not very clear. I apologize for that. If you guys want to see a really clear picture, let me know. I'll print off a copy and make them available or email to you. So we have 3 alternates. Each alternate plan totals $28.95 million. But what it does here is, what you can see here is this chart. Use my pointer. So we have this chart here, and it breaks it down. This is watersheds portion, forest, rangeland, supplemental activities, and then cultural. Well, this is supplemental, this is cultural resources. And we're trying to get you know, the input from the membership. Where would they like to see changes? You know, where would they like to see the money go? Do they think it's more important to put it out there in the forest? You know, addressing forest health issues? Is it addressing the watershed issues? And I apologize. I thought this would be a little more clear. It looks great on the computer, but it doesn't look so great up here. The second plan, same thing, but it actually dedicated more money towards the watersheds. You know, a big majority of the funding was going to go to the watersheds addressing the forest road issues. So that meant everyone else got cut, forestry, and then the other programs got cut down. And then again, watershed was still getting a big portion of it. Forestry got a bigger majority, and then everything else is kind of shrunk. And so I'm that's really all I have there. I wish it came in a lot more clear. But we'd like to get some input here. And I know Lynn gave me a 10-minute, and I'm actually pushing 26. So if there are comments, if you guys have suggestions, recommendations, you know, are we off track? Are we on track? I mean, we're trying to get this feedback. Ed?
Yeah, the thing I want to speak about, I always gripe about, you'll hear me say it all the time, on cost, in the cost efficiency. And that's why I made the point about not opening up all the roads. Another thing I'd like to see is the beaver return to the mountains like they used to be. instead of trapping them all up, because they retain a lot of water, and they're more like the Corps of Engineers on the reservation. And there are a lot of conservation that the beaver, have done, that was, kept water in the mountains, and in our grouse, we used to nest around those places. We had a lot more ducks and geese way back when, and all those things are gone. So, and getting back to this water resources thing, I think that by planning well, that we shut off some of these damn roads and let nature take care of itself, that we may not be spending money, and you'd be saving money by being real careful how you do your planning in those areas. And that way, we just wouldn't be spending just to be making work. We'd be spending money for long-range planning, so that we're expanding everything other than just the work.
So would that be like, you think that we should dedicate more time towards like forest roads planning, or forest
No,
roads
what I'm
management?
saying is that by emergency, you'll go out there and do those things because you have to do them because of emergency response. But by looking at each thing and say, how are these areas progressing, you're not just putting money there and in there to put things in there to make work. You go in and take a good look at how they're growing, and you do your long-range planning where you're projecting and you're watching the things grow. If you get in there and you're just doing things fast, you're spending money, and then you have an emergency, then you have to change your damn plan, and then you're off doing something that you didn't really have in your plan.
I like your idea, Ed, and I don't think I can capture all of that.
Yeah.
in this
But I'll be
little
back
space,
around, you know
yeah,
that.
Before I go, I want to make sure I get that written down, because we'd like to bring that back to the
Again,
task force.
you always hear me gripe, and that's about cost efficiency, and you and I talk a lot,
Yeah.
because we're both in the same profession. But I think by getting the input from all the people and try to work at this in a way that we're being real conservative about how we're spending our money, so we get the best out of what we're putting into it.
So we're getting a lot of value.
Right.
Okay.
Right. For everything.
Yeah, that's a great idea there. Larry?
I just wanted to add something to that. We brought up the closing of the roads as one option, because you just close it up and just let it grow back to natural, and it should be pretty good. The problem we had that we talked about too, though, was some of these roads don't have the proper culverts and stuff in them. So we just close off like the main road of it and not deal with that other stuff down the road, and we're actually gonna create more problems. So it's kind of one of those things you be aware of, but you gotta balance it out somehow down the line. And the thing about, some of the thought in this whole, the compound plan and this portion of the restoration is it's not a finite amount of money. At any given point, if we have any other funds, we can start putting it into this fund right here and start tackling the long-term objectives that we want. Right now, the task right now is for our task team to get us going on a plan, on our immediate needs, and with keeping in mind the long-term objectives. But over time, when we start progressing and things start getting moving, this is going to be our source of revenue for that restoration efforts. And so it's very important that we know, at least initiate that plan, get it moving, get the ball rolling, and then, watch it grow.
And to add on to Councilman Brooks' comments there, and there are other comments around the room that I want to actually get back to, but I just really want to touch on this, is that we understand that the pot of money that we have, and so we're not just banking everything on this. We're doing a lot of the activities, what we consider the supporting activities that we can use to go after alternate funding sources. One of them, I think Larry might be familiar with this, is the hazard mitigation dollars that are available out there that would help address a lot of these problems. But like I said, we're trying to lay the groundwork for that.
Yeah, I understand, but I just want to make this last point that, I'm not meaning you go out and just turn somebody loose on it and not oversight it. What I'm talking about is you oversight it on a day-by-day basis, you need to. That you're always getting input to things, and you're also getting feedback. And so you're not turning it loose, but you all know, because we're all Native Americans, we know the best repair to nature is nature itself. If we just watch it and nurture it, then we're doing better by nurturing it than just trying to throw money at the damn problem. That's all I'm trying to say about it.
Nature did not do it to itself. People did it to this. And I want to say that BIA, I worked with a friend of mine in BIA where they gave out fitting, not clocks. She had me doing all this, sending out letters to these fitting people. And they just brought in anybody, and then they just piled their slash anywhere. That's what I'm talking about. That's what, when my dad was a skidder, he skidded on all the mountains over here. And I know that the people, they had people taking care of the slash, Slaughter did. But the fitters don't do anything but destroy what they fit. They leave slash, they leave garbage, and we have to go in and pick it up after they're gone. That's what I'm talking about. Things like that BIA fitting process, that has to be curbed. That's what I'm talking about. That, and we can go with this restoration plan, but if we don't do anything about BIA fitting process, we're not gonna get anywhere. We're just like spinning our wheels, man.
And, you know, it's hard to see, but, you know, in the Keller community, you know, here we talked about a change of management style. You know, it also came up in the Keller community. It was also brought up in the Mosquito district. So that's something that we're hearing from the membership out there. And, you know, we'll definitely find a way to address it, even if it's just proposing a recommendation to our council. You know, but we hear it, we'll bring it in there and find a way to incorporate that into the plan.
Well, what I wanted to say is, you know, I hear about these plans and getting involvement, and granted, we need to be long-range planners and getting our information put together, but every day that we go by, every day that passes, we're still seeing this, you know, what's happening from past practices. Until we start implementing some action, we're gonna just keep getting the same thing. So the longer we progress towards this end of this year even, things will have gone and slid by. I'm asking you to target, you know, like a bullseye. Here's our most immediate needs, and then we'll move out. Maybe this is our immediate needs in 1 to 3 years. This is our immediate needs after that. And we need to break it out to 100 years. I was thinking, you know, we're just gonna take our money and put it in there. I really like the fact that we're looking at, okay, this is kind of like a seed money, or we have a pot of money to start and get our action and moving, and then we're going to be pulling in other resources. Granted, we only have the, you know, almost $29 million to start with, and we need $193 million, but that doesn't mean it has to be today. You know, we have to be long-range thinkers, and I'm serious, and it's not going to happen in my lifetime, but in 100 years, we may have some nice, pristine forests that will never be like it was, but it'll be in a better way, and we can keep handing it down to generation for many to come. So I would ask that you get your bullseye and get it quick. You know what that is, or you should know what that is by, you have these experts come in and tell you, okay, this is what we absolutely need to do. If it's the watershed, then let's do the watershed. You know, and sure, we can't do all the watershed because we don't have the money for that. But let's get those ones that are most important. And I think what Ed was talking about was quarantining areas, like blocking it off, and letting you see what nature does. We have places where we can probably do that, where it's not as damaged. But more highly damaged, we gotta be acting, you know, very proactive in doing that. But there's other areas that we can go in 5 to 10 years, it's not that bad. Let's force them with areas, like Ed was saying. Let's see what nature does in 10 years versus what we do in 10 years. So we have that opportunity. We gotta not just think of today was our, you know, we can do some of these long-term planning. So please do that.
So capture that, target the trouble areas, and have a strategic approach
Right on.
to addressing it.
Yes.
Make it complicated.
And you should know what ground zero is. You should know what ground zero is and what it looks like, you know, away from the epicenter.
And in reality, ground zero is the Cobble Indian Reservation. It's not just, there are trouble areas, and we have identified them. We have, like I said earlier, we took a strategic approach. And it's reservation wide. We're trying to do what we can. And, you know, I don't want to take up too much more time. I know there's another subject up here, but I just want to end on a couple things. There was a resolution that was passed to obligate some of this money, and it was for some of the supporting activities that we felt were really important to us. Reservation-wide LiDAR scanning, forest roads management plan, so that we can come up with a way to manage the roads, target closure areas and things like that. And there was a number of other supporting activities. Most of them were surveys or pre-project activities that could be done to help us prepare for the other activities that we'd like to do. So those activities, I did attach the resolutions in the handout I had. And if there are community members that want to come over, Fridays, 2 o'clock, the BIA large conference room, it's open. If you'd like copies of the minutes from the meetings, we do have those available. So please come over. We'd like to have, one person who can stay committed throughout the duration of the task force so that we can, see this carried out. And we have had a couple people who have been there every day or every Friday participating. So they're dedicated to helping us out. And if there are members from this community that would like to participate, please do so. Real quick, Ed, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
One brief statement.
Okay.
I just don't want it to be the Twin Towers. We're 11 years later. Do we have anything there? I don't want that. There should have been planning, there should have been something already done.
Yeah.
Every day goes by. Does it make it hurt less? No. I mean, we feel for the people. But here on our land, our reservation, when I say ground zero, and yes, it's reservation-wide, but there is a negative ground zero. What is our most negative ground zero? Let's attack that and at least put those efforts, because action speaks volumes for us. To know that something is not going to be talked about and delayed. And my prime example is the Twin Towers. 11.5 years later, nothing. Just the memory and the pain we see and feel.
Real quick, have you guys built any human factors into this that may impact us from the outside? Like because of population growth. That's one of the biggest things that the Congress of the United States are dealing with right now. You watch the C-SPAN, is that 6 billion people now, 7 billion in a couple of years, and it's going to have an effect on us. And I just hope we can look at that too as we go along.
I'm going to move my board in the back, and I'm going to put that on there. So some of the external factors, I'll add that to the comment section.
Yeah, but
that is a good point, Ed.
Yeah.
Again, Jason Palmer, with the Cobble Tribes Department of Transportation. You can reach me at 509-634-2540, or you can email me, jason.palmer@cobbletribes.com. That's the best way to get a hold of me. Or if you have comments, you got Omak district representatives, feed it to them. I'm actually going to move to the back, so if you have some things, please come back and help me out. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
I want to make a comment. I've been kind of quiet. Jason is one of our own. I mean, he's grown right here in Omak, graduated from Omak School District. He's a manager of our transportation department. He sits on many committees, and a lot of these young guys sit on different committees because they have passion for our tribe. They hear about it. Jason, even though I say 10 minutes, that's like my 10 minutes.
Oh yeah, that was still 10 minutes.
But good job, and we're really proud of all the hard work these guys do. They don't just work 8 hours a day. These guys are at work early, they work late, I mean, it's 24/7, and I'm really proud of them. So thank you, Jason.
Well,
Actually, John was gonna lead us in this phone plan, and when he gets out of the restroom there, he'll.
is that in your name?
Mom, walk.
Yeah, what's your name?
It means Harmony. Harmony? I'll let John explain. Harmony.
Okay, one of the first question, from what I was taught when I was working in the language program, and did a lot of work on the holistic goal, if you guys remember the holistic goal. That whole effort where they interviewed literally thousands, I think they had about 4,200 people back in the early 90s, about what they wanted to see their reservation, what was their vision for the future, what do they want to see improve. And through that whole process, they wanted to see things get so much healthier and better. And the word in Selk'neen is wampum. It's a richness of all things, a richness of family, a richness of plants, of berries, of deer, water, land. It's a richness of all things. That's what, when we put together this plan, and what this plan is, it's a framework like what you're talking about, something that's going to look at the overall long range picture. How we can, what are the activities that we can do as a people to bring us to that wampum, to that richness, so that when we go out into those forests, we see those trees, we see those streams that have trout in them. That's what this is trying to do. That's what we're trying to do with this plan. One of the things that you'll see as we get into this, in establishing this plan for the rest of those settlement funds, we want to invest it because we know that investment is really going to pay off in the future. It's going to help fund these activities. And we were looking through some of our old coyote stories, and this one's a really good one. And there's tons of coyote stories. It was also taught to me too that all right, I'll but winter time is when you share those stories, those coyote stories. So this one is. And Coyote's always teaching us things about how we're supposed to act, how we're supposed to do things. Because what he does is usually he's failed at it. He's either died or something happened and somebody has to fix it for him. So in this example, the little bull is giving that gift to him so that he could always have food for his family. You have to follow a couple of different things, not to eat the backpack. But of course, Coyote St. Philip, he doesn't listen. He just goes ahead and does what he wants, And here he has to learn the hard way, and go without food. So that's one of the things that I wanted to bring into it too. And just in little ways, around the council table, I'm trying to push people and start using the language. When we agree, we say kiwa, when we don't, we say loop, and it's fun that way. So you guys having patience with me, but I'm going to keep pushing it because that's important. Okay, I think Jason covered a lot of this about the history. These settlement dollars were in an agreement that we entered into because of the way the court case was going. President Obama and his administration didn't have to settle this. He could have just left it out there and not dealt with it, but he decided to settle it. He wanted to make at least an effort to fix this, and I just wanted to correct Jason a little bit because the first evaluation that all those experts, when they came in and they evaluated, they took the data, it was closer to 500 million that was needed to repair all the damage that was done. And then through that negotiation process, when we were going back and forth with the United States government, they weren't going to give us 500 million, but we ended up with 193 million. And that's the basis that we had to go from there. So what we did, I mean, this is recent history. We all know what happened. 50% of those funds went out, distributed to tribal membership. The rest of the money, 96.5 million is still left. And that's where we want to use this Quampum plan as a way a framework to really look at wise investment and how it's going to pay off for us in the future, in our all the things that Jason talked about, watershed, cultural plans, all those things. So it's a guide. It's our management tool. If you go ahead. So these are the different. Did we go over one? Doesn't look like it's showing up. I have a larger graph. So the larger graph shows how it's broken out. So what he just presented on was just the restoration portion. I don't know if there's a way we can show it. So it's the same one, but just the graphic's not showing up. So the original graph shows it's almost big enough to see, but half of that fund is a